Hello and welcome to BreveTV. I'm Debra Trappen, here with my partner in crime, Kelly Mitchell, who's also today's guest. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. This is very interesting. I feel like everything's a little backwards. At
Well,
least how I feel it is.
yeah, well, that's because we're turning the table and the mic on you. Because we
I
want to
love
talk
it.
about reinvention, and you, my dear, are the queen of reinvention, specifically on using podcasts to do that. So what you're going to share with us today is how people can use podcasting to not only reinvent themselves, as you did, but also their businesses and their marketing. I cannot wait to hear your story. But first, in our beautiful tradition, we are going to share what's in our wine glass, and you get to go first.
Yay! I love this part. Well, fancy this. I am reaching out and really challenging my taste buds because I have gone Pinot Noir again.
Oh my goodness.
So what's in my glass today, I am happy to say, is Love Noir, and this is the dark side of Pinot Noir, but I mean dark side in such a rich, fabulous, just delicious way. This is actually, I think I could probably eat this with anything. Eat this with anything, drink this with any meal I might be consuming, and it's really a delightful, delicious wine. And let's see, their tagline is obsession, desire, passion. 50
Ooh.
Shades has nothing on Love Noir wine.
Oh. Ooh, that sounds like a call out to me.
It's fabulous.
So, in my glass today, I have da, 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 a jammy Pinot Noir.
Oh my God, somebody like
Honor
tie
of
me up some.
you. I decided to say I am going to drink Kelly's favorite red. Is a 2013 Savage Grace Pinot
Ooh,
Noir.
that
And
sounds delicious.
it is very delicious. It's they actually grow the grapes. I believe they grow the grapes in the Columbia Gorge. And what I love about this is it actually has Rainier cherries in it and a little bit of candied orange peel. So it's not super sweet, but it definitely has a little bit of fruit to it. And it's got this gorgeous color. Can you see this?
Oh, that looks so delightful.
You are going
Absolutely.
to love it. We'll definitely go to the tasting room that's here in Woodinville when you visit next.
And I'll bring my Love Noir with so I can compare it side by side. Just, darling, what do you think of the hat?
I love the hat. So before we go any further, I do have a fun little quote, by the way. People who cannot invent and reinvent themselves must be content with borrowed postures, second-hand ideas, fitting in instead of standing out. That is by Warren Bennis.
Well, hallelujah to getting the heck out of the mold and being a little bit different
Which is
whenever the
awesome.
moment
Got
strikes you.
the sassy hat on. I'm drinking Pinot, which is never happening.
I think I need to wear my hat on all the shows every episode. I just think, the caffeinator has to have the hat.
Ooh, yes.
Winerator has to, the woman on wine has to have the glass.
That's absolutely right. So there's a lot of the listeners who probably don't know what the Caffeinator is. So let's kind of get into your story and talk about what is your story. And I guess we need to pick our word of the day, which I'm guessing should be podcast.
Uh-oh. Sounds dangerous. Okay, podcast it is.
Yes, it is. Cheers. So who the heck is the Caffeinator, and what is the story? Where do you come from? Give it to us straight, sister.
Okay, so I spent some of my formative years in Minnesota, but quickly progressed west and ended up in Newport Beach, California in the 70s. And shortly thereafter, I was cut off by my parents in an effort to uh, encourage me to move to Hawaii, the most remote landmass in the world, which I was not excited about. But lo and behold, in 1977, 78, I left Newport Beach for Hawaii and lived there ever since. So I've traversed 4 industries successfully. I think that the caffeinator, in the truest sense, is somebody who's an engine of sorts, someone who is a method of change, who is a catalyst of change and transformation. And I've certainly experienced that in real life myself, and always have created opportunities, pushing the envelope, trying things technologically advanced, whether they were ready for me or not. And, the Caffeinator is about pushing the envelope in a very big way.
And the Caffeinator is your kind of your stage name, if you will, on a podcast, a very, very famous podcast inside and the real estate industry, which we are allowed to say that today since it's directly related to Noir. So how did you get that name? How did the Caffeinator, how was that born? That's kind of exciting.
Well, the show is Agent Caffeine. So, I mean, I guess the essence of the show, again, is innovation and transformation. But the Caffeinator is the one who makes things happen, who ties some snarkasm into, her day without being hurtful to people. That's very important. But snarkasm, making things happen, making people think, and trying to change the landscape. I really love to inspire people to get the hell out of their own way.
I love that. So, okay, so explain to me why you got into podcasting. I mean, you've been doing this for how many years now? 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. Hello, why the heck did you jump into the space?
Well, so it's so funny. I discovered, podcasting, everybody, cocktails. Ching, ching. I got into this space because, so I'm out in the middle of nowhere, a blonde, blue-eyed, 5'7" chick who doesn't fit in Hawaii by any stretch of the imagination. I never really fit in there. So it's always, trying new things and trying to get people to adopt new things. And I kept hitting this level of frustration, which is a wall. And after I had, beat my head against the wall so many times, I was like, Twitter came on the horizon, and I was like, oh my God, I can communicate with people I don't know. This is magic. And so in June of 2008, was when I first got involved in Twitter, and really on the island, very few people were playing in that arena. I latched onto it, became very involved in the social scene, and then after some time, we actually were facing a tsunami, and this was the Japan tsunami, which was so devastating to the people of Japan. So my heart goes out to them. But this was an opportunity for me to communicate with people from everywhere, all over the world, what I was going through. And so I had probably 6 or 7 different news channels. I had people in various areas of the state that I was connected with, and I was doing a play-by-play on what was happening with the tsunami, the prep, when it started affecting the islands, and I was reporting it quicker than CNN was. And so people stopped watching CNN, and there were historical tweets that actually reference this. She's reporting things faster than CNN can get them out there. And I must have been tweeting for, I don't know, 10, 12 hours. And it was a fascinating thing to be in the middle of, but also that kind of really, it created a lot of relationships that I didn't expect, and I still have today. In fact, a dear friend of ours, Archively's Perry Blake Gorman, is one of those people who first became aware of me because I was tweeting about the tsunami.
Oh.
And there's even a white paper on it, which is amazing to me. But so seeing what happened with that instance really kind of opened my eyes. There's a way to communicate with people outside of my own space, and why not do this in some way, shape, or form that I can help other entrepreneurs, because I've been an entrepreneur forever, and startups are my middle name. So that was kind of the pivotal point, I guess.
Excellent. So you saw the ability to use a podcast as taking what you were doing on Twitter to a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
Actually see you and communicate with you. I love that. So what has been the evolution of this show, this Agent Caffeine? So you started, were you interviewing people, or was it just you? Like, what is the format of it, and how did you make that decision?
Well, I thought, I'd probably run out of things to say after a while, and this wasn't something that I planned on doing as a, one-night deal. I understood, based on the research that I had done on podcasts, that the commitment is probably even more important than it is with blogging. I mean, if people don't see you, out of sight, out of mind. And certainly from podcasts, there are people that look forward to hearing the new shows every week. So I knew I had to commit to doing it regularly. As far as the situation with how the format would play out, I was going to try a couple of different things. I thought me being the talking head solely was going to be completely boring. And I know I was getting connected with a lot of people in the real estate industry who were doing amazing things. And I'm like, I'm so tired of people keeping secrets from other people about how to do business. And in particular, seeing when you started a new company or you started a new industry, and I experienced this from the automobile industry to the technology industry to real estate, everywhere. It's all the same. You get in, everybody's like, who the blank is this person? Oh, they want help. Well, I'll give them a little bit, but they need to learn like I did, School of Hard Knocks, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, with technology moving as fast as it was, and the information, like literally being able to be a fire hose of assistance to people, if it's done the right way, I figured, why don't I tap into the talent and then bring their voices to the forefront so the message gets out sooner, so people can be more successful faster, and they don't have to find out like I did over the last 28, 30 years. I really wanted to be the catalyst for bringing people powerful information that could transform their lives and their business and make them better at what they're doing.
Oh, I love that. So what do you think was the biggest challenge when you were, whether it was launching or relaunching, like what were the challenges that somebody who might be thinking about doing this themselves could overcome a little faster with your advice?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges was understanding the technology, how it works together, and how to make the show something that people will actually sit and listen to. Because, I mean, video is one thing, and people are a little bit more forgiving with video, but if your audio is not perfect, then I'll tell you what, they'll turn you off after 30 seconds. So the technology was a big challenge, and I've got technology today that I spent hundreds of dollars on that I don't use. And I think the other thing, even in the podcasting space, not everybody is willing to share all the information, because it takes a long time to really get a show down, to get all the pieces together, and then to keep up with it, and the workflow. I mean, you're not just turning on a mic and turning on the camera. The things that go on behind the scenes are tremendous. And then after the show is done, then there's another level of tremendous activity that needs to take place to make sure that your voice is heard, that the time that you spent is honored by getting the message to the people who need it.
Wow, I love that. So you've worked out all the kinks, is what you're saying, but you've had some substantial bumps along the road.
Substantial bumps, untold hours, I mean, I'm a marketing person first and foremost is how I see myself. But the untold hours, I couldn't even calculate how many hours it's taken me to get to where I am today. I mean, when we started out, Sherry Chris, bless her heart for being somebody who was ready, willing, and able to try it out first. Sherry Chris of Better Homes and Gardens, she's their CEO and the Queen of Pink, was the very first guest. And I don't know, we might have had 20 or 30, maybe 40 listens. Last month in January, we celebrated over 80,000 downloads. So you don't do that overnight.
80,000?
80,000 downloads.
Oh, okay, podcast. I need to cheers to that.
The podcast.
Wow.
And I think it's going to get a lot more interesting. You know, I paid my dues over the last 3 years. There are people that started podcasting 12 years ago, many of who are no longer in the space because it wasn't the right time. But we are just at that point. When you see people like Scott Stratton, Jay Baer, who else is in the space? There's a bunch of new adopters. These are marketing people, and they're like, they get it now. It took them a while, but I think once people heard podcasts were going into automobiles, so people would have it on their radios, that just brings a whole different level of connectivity to an audience.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that fact right there is it's almost how blogging allowed many more people to get their thoughts out with words as opposed to having to go through, you know, the publishing house and having a book printed. Now there's plenty of people who are blogging and doing self-publishing. I think podcasting is kind of coming in that space too, where you don't have to have a radio station air your stuff. So besides kind of the podcast being in cars, what do you think are some of the opportunities that are coming in the future for those people who kind of jump into podcasting now?
So I think the opportunities are remembering that, you know, some of the things that are unique to blogs is that, and not even unique, but every individual has their own unique voice. They have their own unique perspective. And what that brings to the table is the opportunity to share things that they love or that they're passionate about or that they're drivers for in the market. And so when you're talking about entrepreneurs, I think, you know, obscure niches that people would have never thought about, you know, publishing information on, there are people out there looking for you, and they're not finding you right now because you don't know either how to do it or what to do or how to market it. And how to put it all together. But there are people that are looking for very specific information. The more information that becomes available, the more specialized that people need to get in this. You know, the CNNs, the general, like, here's the 12 car crashes of today. You know, nobody wants to be inundated by that kind of news anymore. They want to better themselves. They want to make better decisions. They want to pursue things that truly interest them, as obscure as some of these interests may be. So I think that there is a huge amount of opportunity for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking in the blog realm, millions and millions and millions and millions of blogs. In the podcast space, a couple 100,000.
Right. Wow. So you could actually still consider yourself a fairly early adopter. Maybe
I did say podcast.
Maybe not a visionary, but you definitely are still on the early side. You're not missing the boat, in other words, when you jump into the space now. So you said something that was really interesting to me that I'm sure people are thinking about, which is, gosh, someone like Kelly has a show in a specific industry. I can't do my own podcast in that space. My guess is there's a podcast or two out there that would be considered similar in nature, same industry, that kind of thing. How do you kind of keep yourself focused and not worry about what's going on the outside so that you don't get kind of in that circle of thinking, oh my gosh, another competitor? Like, what is your advice for people who might be going through that?
First of all, I mean, it's like with any competitor. You need to know what they're doing, but you don't need to immerse yourself in their lives. And I think once you get too wrapped up with people who may be in the competitive space, you're ruining the game. I mean, the game is about being uniquely you in any sense of business. People aren't going to do business with me because maybe my message doesn't resonate with them, but the person down the street, maybe, who has an F word every 3 seconds might resonate better with them. I mean, whatever it is, everybody has a different voice, everybody has a different attraction or appeal, and everybody has a different message. So I think even if you think of them as in the same space, they're not competition.
Yes, I love that. That's such a good word. I actually listened to a couple of podcasts in the wine space, and there is an F-bomber, but I do love some of his information, right? And so I push through that, but there's others that I really love, other podcasts that I really enjoy. And for me as the listener, I actually like that there's options inside the same vertical. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking, gosh, there's already somebody doing that, don't be afraid. In other words, that they might have a similar message, but they are not you. You are uniquely you. I love that. So what would you say to entrepreneurs who are considering podcast for their business? Like, is it something that they should consider? How do they tell if they're the right voice or they have the right message? Like, what gives?
I think part of it is you have to have a level of art of conversation. You have to be able to keep and carry a conversation. So I think that is a key component. I've seen a lot of people do different things in the podcast space that works. I mean, for goodness sakes, there's podcasts ad nauseum about video games. Like one single video game may have like 25 people, maybe 100 people. I haven't examined it that closely, but I'm like, there's a lot of people in this space simply talking about a single video game. So knowing that the conversations have to be carried, that you have to ask intelligent questions, that you're constantly, that curiosity factor is huge. I mean, I'm innately curious about everything. Whether I like it or not, I want to understand how it works. I want to understand, what makes people tick. How did they get to where they are? So being able to ask those kinds of questions in the type of format that I do is really important, and knowing your subject matter. The amount of preparation that goes into doing a podcast is intense. So you have to, if you're sitting there right now and thinking, gosh, should I do it? Well, first of all, don't do what I did. Don't go it alone. Learn from somebody who's already who's already done it, who's doing it, who understands every single piece that you have to go through, who knows how to make it a success, who knows how to help you generate the traffic, who knows how to help you choose the right guests, choose the right format, put together your strategy, choose the topic. You've got to have some sort of niche with your podcast, otherwise, and I'm seeing people do this plug and play as well. I don't know when you're doing a plug and play, like if you're just doing, hey, anybody who's around that wants to talk about, wine glasses, join me in the chat. I don't know if that's sustainable. I think if it's planned, if it's well thought out, if there are guests that add value, then that's different. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people try a lot of different things, and some's working and some, not so much, but you've got to keep with it. You've really got to keep with it. So make sure it's something that you can commit to.
And now you have a Mastermind program, correct?
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that? Like, who's the ideal? How will that help somebody? What are they going to get from something like that?
So from something like that, what you're going to get is you're going to get straight, direct guidance on how to put all the pieces together, on what types of technology you should be thinking about. We're trying to reduce the wear and tear on humans, and in particular the people that put the podcast together. So a couple of different aspects of how you can produce a podcast and then outsource pieces of the podcast that you don't necessarily need to be involved in, because you've probably got a bigger picture that you need to be focused on as far as driving money, right?
Yeah.
The podcast is an asset to your marketing toolkit. It's going to help you with visibility. It's going to help you with relationships. So I'll show you how it helps you with visibility. I'll show you how it can help improve your return on investment. But you're not directly hitting people over the head with your own message all the time. And that, I think, makes a big difference. People are there to learn, and you're providing them with the information that's powerful to them learning. So being able to choose guests, format the show, deliver a finished product, get the eyeballs there, it's not a simple process, and I think it took me a good 1.5 to 2 years to really get things down to where it's running like a machine.
Love that. And so how do they actually find out about that? Where do they go?
So they should go to, now my landing page is almost done. I am a little bit of a perfectionist animal, and I want to make sure, oh my God, shock, surprise. I want to make sure that it's perfect before it launches. I'll probably have you look at it. But for now, they can email me or email Lisa. Lisa will keep me informed. They can email Lisa, my assistant, Lisa at agentcaffeine.com. And that's for entrepreneurs. The first mastermind is for real estate people, and it's very niche oriented. So we're talking about communities there in a really big way and how to be the master of your community. That launches the first week of April. With the entrepreneurs launches the first week of June. So we've got 2 segments going out. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited. I want to help other people do business better, and I think that this is a great way for people to take that next step in their digital toolkit.
I love that, and we'll be sure to update the information in the blog post underneath the show with exactly how they can find that information as it grows and changes and gains perfection status. How's that?
That sounds wonderful.
So one of my favorite things about your Agent Caffeine podcast is the Open the Kimono section.
Ooh.
So I would love to ask the Caffeinator to open her kimono and share a secret, a little something that most people aren't going to know that is part of your secret to your success.
So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I really think that this is part of the kimono deal, because a lot of people know me from one segment or the other, but they don't know how diverse my background is. And I think being in 4 different industries and then learning hands-on that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, the jargon changes a little bit, the strategies and techniques maybe a little bit, but the core principles of how you do business in every single industry are truly the same. And so that was a huge, for me, every time I got into a new industry, like I went from, what the heck was I doing? I went from the personnel industry into technology. And I'll tell you what, all of the programmers would speak in Vulcan to me, so I couldn't understand what they were saying. And then when that was over with, then they would critique me on why I couldn't speak Vulcan when I was in a meeting with a client. And the thing is they speak English, I speak English. It's like, come together at a common thread. So if people are doing that to you in the space that you're in or in the office that you're in or whatever, first of all, if it's a widespread issue, you might be in the wrong office, but know that your smarts, that your brain works equally well in whatever space you're in, so long as you employ the core disciplines that made you successful in the first place.
I love that. If I may use one word, it would be tenacious. Your tenacity is part of the secret to your success, and I would definitely attest to that for sure. So any last words that you have for the entrepreneurs listening? Any last little tip or trick?
tip or trick to the entrepreneurs that are listening? I would say if you've made it up in your mind that you are going to do a podcast, don't wait. Get out there and do what you need to do to get it put together. The second thing is do not give up. Not only is tenacity important, but having that engine, that positive engine behind you that's always moving you forward, really helps. So whether it's people you surround yourself with, whether it's affirmations that you do in the day, whether it's writing down the 3 things that you're grateful for every morning, do something that keeps that engine going. And then remember, reinvention is not something that you do once. It's something that you repeat constantly. And to stop reinventing is to stop living. So don't be afraid to take those first steps out there and change what's not working. Add something to the arsenal and try it. And if it works, well, fly that broom as far as you can.
Well, there you have it. I think that is a wrap. Thank you so much. I'm actually going to turn the close over to you because that is your realm. But I just really wanted to say before you do that, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for putting the program together. I think that that's going to change a lot of entrepreneurs' lives and businesses. And I appreciate you just opening the kimono and letting people in and sharing your success and your knowledge with all of us.
Well, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. You know, I don't know if at first I was totally open to it because I'm so used to being on the other side, but this is kind of fun. I might be a guest somewhere else now.
Yes. Yes, you gotta get your agent on that.
Okay, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. So don't forget, each and every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, we are in the chat, pound BreveTV. Make sure and ask questions. You can comment on some of the statements that were made, agree or disagree, and certainly get down to brevetv.com and subscribe right now. If you're in the real estate vertical, you can subscribe to Agent Caffeine by going to agentcaffeine.com. I'm Kelly Mitchell for Debra Trappen and BreveTV and the Caffeinator signing off. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, wait, we forgot to giggle. Podcast.
Podcast. Woo!